Okay, we are here with Salma el Wardany. She's an Egyptian journalist who covered Sudan from 2011. At the end of June, she was arrested in Sudan, in Khartoum, because she was covering the revolt against the regime, and she got deported because she refused the order to stop covering the revolt. I want to ask you if you can explain exactly what happened to you in these days.
Yeah, so on Thursday I was going to cover, I was on Jama Street, which is very close to Khartoum University. Okay, let's start. Okay, so as the university in Khartoum, they started revolting against the government on June, I think 16, against, it started against austerity measures that implies removing oil subsidies, which means a huge hike in prices. So it started that way, and then it developed into anti-regime protest, mass protest. It started at university first, and then it spread all over expanded in neighborhoods inside and outside Khartoum. So on that day, I was going to cover demonstrations in Jama Street, which is very close to Khartoum University, and then I was waiting for the demonstrations. I was staying in a car with my friend, and I was waiting for the demonstration to start because they usually start inside the university and then they come out into the street. So then 6 big men, they started, knocking out harshly on our car, and they said, "Get off the car! Get off the car! What are you doing? Are you taking photos?" And we were like, "No, we're not doing anything." And then they told us to sit at the back of the car, and then they drove us somewhere outside, like the city center, somewhere far away, to one of the national security and intelligence centers. I mean, there was an unknown building. It hasn't any labels or anything that, but I knew it was security who were arresting, was kidnapping us. And then I had a friend with me. She's a journalist also. And then they started investigating, and they started interrogation. They asked me questions about what do you think of politics in Egypt? What do you think of politics in Sudan? What do you think of the austerity package? Is it a bad thing or a good thing? What do you think of demonstrations? Do you think they're rioters, or they're like they have like what do you think? What do you think of them? How do you see them? 5 hours, and then they released me. When they released me, they were like, "No, we're just worried that maybe a tear gas will suffocate you or something." And I was released, and I went back home. And then they took my accreditation card, and they told me you have to go to the press council and start the procedures all over again to be able to get your press card back. And then 3 days there were like security harassment, people following you all the time, people asking you questions, taxi drivers who probably report to the security for 3 days. And then on Monday they called me and they said we want to meet you at the press council to see to work things out. So I met them, and the guy told me, now like the government is, like the regime is, it's hard times for us, and the country is insecure now. So it's not. I mean, we want. He didn't say that, but I mean, he meant to say we want to tolerate, covering demonstrations and protests. So he told me like a kind of a deal that I can stay and I can take back my press card if I stop reporting about demonstrations and forgot about stop making troubles. And so because he told me, because we have high security orders, that we should be banned from working in Sudan, from covering Sudan. So I told him I can't be in a country, and I can't be covering the whole country and avoid covering protests or any other big events for some higher purposes. So and I told him if I can't cover everything I want, like I mean, work as a journalist as I was for a year, then you can take my press card away. I don't want it, and I go back home. He told me no, I want. Don't worry, it's fine. And then he called me the next day and he told me you need to meet someone from the security inside the information ministry. And I met the guy and I was shocked when he told me you're detained. We have a security decision that you have to leave the country immediately, and that you're unwanted journalist. That was the decision. So, and he kept me, and I was given. They went with me back home, and I was given just 10 minutes to collect my stuff. And of course, I forgot a lot of stuff there. I left a lot of stuff. So, and they went, and it took me to the airport, kept me until I was aboard. Yeah.
And so, Yani, you were covering. You were saying that you were covering these protests against the regime and all these new measures. So, but can you explain us when all these start? Because it was not starting this August. No, it's previous also demonstrations. So, can you explain a little bit what is going on in Sudan?
Yeah. So, okay. So
in North Sudan.
Yeah, of course, in North Sudan. So since the session of South Sudan back in July 2011, the economy is deteriorating. It's like there's high inflation, high unemployment. Then because the negotiations between South Sudan and Sudan on oil fees has failed for like 6 or 7 times. So there's no revenues anymore for which accounts for like it's I think I can't remember now, but it's like 50% of the budget of the previous budget was coming from oil. So so now the oil revenues has is no more there, and you have the high unemployment, high inflation, price hikes, plus political repression, plus mismanagement of what you call like diversity in Sudan. Sudan is a very diversified country, and the ruling regime is what you call is like marginalizing everyone. It's like all other groups. They're marginalized outside the capital. Khartoum are marginalized, so they're an increasing what do you call like anger against the regime. There's that sentiment. So every now and then wide protests to start all over the country, in Khartoum and outside Khartoum. It starts most of the time from universities, but also there are other movements. So now the regime is given people a very, very strong reason now to revolt, which is removing fuel subsidies, which means like a huge price hikes. Like overnight, the gallon of the benzene gallon increased from 8.5 pounds for a liter to 13.5 pounds, which is almost double. So yeah.
But you are an Egyptian citizen, so you saw what went on in Egypt during your revolution. You see similarities or not?
Yeah, like okay, so first it started inside university, but now it's expanding. I've seen before I got deported, I've seen like women and kids or blocking away the police and fighting against the police. Like scenes I've recalled so many scenes I've seen in Tahrir and in Egypt during the revolution. I mean it's not as big as Egypt, because I think Egypt is a unique case, but in Sudan it's still big. Like last Friday, there were a total of 30,000 people all over Sudan. I mean, it's not compared to Egypt. So it's nothing compared to Egypt, but still it's big and it's expanding. And the thing is, I think they won't stop because the government cannot undo the austerity package it announced. It cannot, because they have to find a source of revenue. So